You're listening to Lexington Community Radio, WLXU 93.9, and this is Bike Talk.
Bluegrass Cycling Club is proud to support Bike Talk as an underwriter for Lexington Community Radio. For more information, you may visit bgcycling.net. Hi, I'm your host, Wanda Bertram. Today on our show is Dave Leonard, also known locally as the Tree Guy. His company is actually called Dave Leonard Tree Specialists, but he's here because he has cycled 17 years in the Tour de Trees. It's a national event which is coming to Kentucky for the first time this year. Hey, Dave, it's great to have you on the show.
Well, thank you, Wanda. I'm tickled to be here.
So tell us a little bit about the Tour de Trees, because you've got some experience. You've been cycling in this thing a long time.
Well, a lot of the people think I'm totally crazy for doing something like this, because it's a huge commitment to ride, to support trees is what we're doing, and the money we raise goes to support tree research, and we raise $300,000 or $400,000 a year with this annual event.
That's a huge fundraiser.
And we do this with between 75 and 100 riders, each raising a minimum of $3,500 to some go as high as $10,000 or $12,000. So it's whoever's pockets we can get into and get pledges from, we go, and then we ride 500, 600, 700, 800 miles.
And it's a nice supported ride. You stay in some nice places. You have some great support.
We stay in nice places. We're well supported. It is an international event. We do have international riders. Yes. And we occasionally have riders from Australia, quite often from Great Britain, and certainly Canada. Several strong riders from Canada. So yeah, it's just a tremendous amount of fun, though.
What is the date of this ride?
Put this on your calendar.
Put this on your calendar.
The date for this year's ride is September 16th through the 20th. Actually, into the second week of September. It won't quite be fall color, but should be really, really nice in Western Kentucky at that time.
Which is where it starts.
Well, we start in Nashville and come up through Land Between the Lakes, and then to Owensboro, visit a distillery, go by the national champion sassafras tree in Owensboro on Frederica Street.
See, I'm learning all kinds of things.
And then we loop back to Nashville. And we're staying on smaller roads. We have a very famous company, Black Bear Tours, that is our guide. And Paul has been with us for over probably 10 or 12 years and has led us on these merry chases. Just an amazing experience to do.
And if someone wants to do fewer than 4 days,
or 5 or 6 or 7 days, which we've done in the past, certainly there's that option. We have a lot of people that come to ride and just do 1 day as a warm-up. And they show up and ride 80 or 100 miles, and that's great. Or maybe we even have a shorter day of 60 miles.
So there are lots of options.
Yes, lots of options. You can do any combination thereof.
Dave, tell me, because we're going to talk a lot more about this ride, but let's talk about you a little bit. You're the Tree Guy.
As I said, I'm one of the Tree Guys. There's a few of us in Lexington that are educated and know about trees, and then we try and help trees in our urban areas.
So what kind of services do you provide in helping trees?
For myself, my own company, I could say that we do practically anything involved with trees by caring for them, pruning, removing dead trees. Right now is a big part of our business because of the emerald ash borer and a lot of our declining forest canopy in Lexington due to drought, just due to planting the wrong tree in the wrong place, which we have too much of, or improper planting.
I've been guilty of that myself.
Well,
You've taught me a few lessons in the past.
So there's anything, we plant trees, certainly. I do a lot of consulting as far as even legal cases when trees fall and hurt people or property. We have to go and, was this tree bad tree, or was it a big wind event, or what happened? And right now I'm looking at a lot of zip line trees where they're connected there. And that's a great fun to zip to your subject, and, go whiz through the air and slide in and, oh, well, this tree looks pretty good. Now let's go to the next one.
It sounds fun, but you hire rock climbers too.
Well, we hire tree climbers, rock
climbers, however you need to get up to your subject.
It's good to be able to get up close and personal.
Good. So you have a great love of trees.
I've had it for many, many years, yes.
So it's in your blood, and it is carried over to this event.
This event is how I give back now. One of the ways I give back, besides all the other volunteer things that we do.
So you're a cyclist as well.
Well, I have become a cyclist. I can't say the last time, but I really got back into cycling. Of course, in college in the 70s, I rode a bike all the time because that was the cheapest way to get around, and I didn't have a car. that was the good way to do it.
That's right. There's a lot of us out there.
On my $70 bicycle, I got around and did great. And then I heard about this Tour de Trees in really one of the rides. It was about the fifth ride. I hadn't heard about it that much before then. And one little lady from California was telling me, she said, well, Dave, you could do this. We just rode from up in the Smoky Mountains down to Hilton Head, and it was a 500-mile ride, and we went from freezing temperatures to 105 degrees here in Hilton Head. And I said, well, it was downhill. So
downhill both ways.
And so we always joke about that it's all downhill from here. But she convinced me that I could ride. So then the next year we chose to ride, and it was about an 800-mile ride all the way around the Great Lakes. We dipped our tires in every Great Lake and went across the Peace Bridge at Niagara Falls. So that was just an amazing experience, and it was my first time. And once you do it, you're kind of hooked.
You are, absolutely. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, so that was just a smaller group then, and it's been built up over the years. So we try and max out the number of riders at about 100 riders. This year we're got it capped at 75 full-time riders because of the logistics of the ride. Just there are so many motels you can stay in.
Yes.
We're really looking forward to the ride.
Wonderful. Well, what kind of people go on this ride?
Well, there are some arborists.
A few. That would make sense.
Male and female. We've had riders as young as 16 and as old as 74.
So anyone, any age?
Any age, as long as you can if you can maintain 13, 14 miles an hour for 100 miles, you're okay.
You're okay. And a lot of people can do that.
But if you can't, there is always the sag wagon, and I'm never too proud to say, Dave, you've had enough today. Let's just save some for tomorrow. And jump in the sag wagon, and you give them a thumbs down as they come by and check on you, and they stop around the corner and load you up and refresh you and go on.
So do some training, build your miles up a little bit, but any ability is welcome.
We say you need seat time, training time. So you need to be on the bike and ride at least as many miles as the tour. Get out there and ride some, everybody.
We got plenty of time. Everyone has till September to get in shape.
Yeah, our ride is normally in cooperation with our international conference of arborists, where we have 2,000 arborists from all over the world come and meet to learn. And then we ride in on their opening field day, where they're having the world tree climbing competition. And that's always fun to see too. Yeah. But we always have that in like the first week of August. And we found that it's kind of hot cycling weather. So when we had the conference in Florida, it was not a good idea. Or we would have,
cycling it would have been in August does not sound enticing to me.
not as enticing, or Texas for that matter. So when we've shifted, we've separated the events, and so now we look for October, September dates, and whatever we can work out, and it's a little bit cooler.
Well, it sounds like a fabulous event, and we're going to learn more about it. Okay. But right now, we're going to take a short break, so stay tuned in. Welcome back to Bike Talk on Lexington Community Radio. I'm your host, Wanda Bertram. Today on our show is Dave Leonard. He's the tree guy. That's how a lot of people know him. But he's also cycled 17 years in an international ride called the Tour de Trees, which is coming to Kentucky for the first time this year. It's starting in Tennessee. Is that correct?
In Nashville, the home of country music.
And then circling through Kentucky and looping back to Nashville. Dave, if people want to find out how to get involved in this ride, if they want to cycle, they want to donate, because this is a charity event.
It is a charity event, and we are looking for assistance and sponsors, certainly. Each rider to participate has to raise $3,500 minimum.
If they're going to participate in the whole
If they're going to ride the whole length of the tour, yes.
Yes, and if they ride less days, then...
We appropriately, their goals are less.
Gotcha. Okay. So if people want more information on how they can ride, how they can get involved as a volunteer or to donate or a sponsor, how do they go about finding about this?
Well, the easiest way would be to access your computer and look for Tree Fund. That's capital TREE Fund, and the Tour de Trees is under that. And click on that, and it will come right up and tell you all you want to know. And if you want to know even more, you can call up any of us, or we certainly have a phone number there of Maggie Hawthorne, who is coordinating all of our events this year.
Well, wonderful. And this year, the theme is...
bikes, banjos, and bluegrass.
Which sounds like a lot of fun, and trees.
And they left the bourbon out of there, too. We had to have...
There may be some of that.
There may be some of that involved, because we have to go by distillery for going through Kentucky.
Yeah. So tell me about the route. Where does this is the first time this has gone through Kentucky, and it's been an international event. So this is a real opportunity for people to do this.
It is, and this year our international conference is in it's in Knoxville this year. So we couldn't route it from Knoxville, so we decided to do Nashville, and it just laid better, and it was really too far apart to keep it shorter and like we wanted to do it this year. So we're starting in Nashville, and coming up, I see Fort Campbell, Cumberland City, Hopkinsville, Dawson Springs, a lot of little towns up to Owensboro.
Nice small roads. You're not playing in traffic
We're
a lot.
on small roads. We ride, certainly we get pretty well strung out with 75 riders.
Because everyone's riding at their own pace.
We have riders that ride 100 miles in 4 hours. I'm not one of them.
I'm not one of them.
I might take the rest of the day to ride that same distance. But then we have more fun than they do.
We're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about that and Professor Picklethorn. And
Close.
We're going to talk about Professor Picklethorn. But the route, so it goes up through Kentucky, some beautiful areas of Kentucky. You stay overnight in a number of places like Hopkinsville, Owensboro, around the Bowling Green area. Some nice accommodations.
We're staying in good accommodations, but they figure if you're going to beat us up by, making you ride a bike 100 miles, you could put us up fairly well at night.
and feed you really well.
And this is interesting too, because that cost is covered by corporate sponsors. It's not something that we raise. We have to raise. All of the money we raise goes directly to research.
That's very interesting.
Large sponsors, corporate sponsors, foot the bill for the cost of the tour.
So all of the money that everyone raises, every single penny, goes directly to the tree fund.
Yes, it does, for urban tree research and scholarships too as well.
So we've got in addition to the bikes and banjos and bluegrass and bourbon, we've got a big tree thing here too, and a lot of activities along the way as you're cycling.
We have a lot of fun.
You get off and play a little bit.
We have tree planting events at state capitals or wherever. I'm sure we'll be planting a tree in Nashville or two. I'm not sure what Owensboro will have for us. We like to stop at elementary schools and have little tree planting events there. I've planted lots of trees with elementary schools, and we do have a character that rides with us from Canada. His name is Professor Picklethorn, and he wears a wild white wig and big glasses and a lab coat, and he teaches kids about trees at these events, and he is just amazing with kids, and adults learn as well. When you have an afternoon or an hour with Professor Picklethorn, you can't help but learn.
You said he does skits too.
Yes, where we learn what trees do for us and what we get from trees. And he pulls kids from the audience with volunteers, and they raise their hand and come up, and he gives them a sign, and then you learn about this from, this is what trees give. And it's really, really fun.
So education with kids, a lot of fun with kids. You're planting trees along the way. You said in the past you've had mayors and governors.
Oh yes, yeah. We'll take anybody that's out there.
He will join in, and I've learned a lot.
And they'll join in and they'll learn, and so we're about educating people about trees as we go along.
So if someone wants to come and ride, they love cycling, they love trees, they can take a break from riding if they want to and help Professor Picklethorn.
Yes.
Or others, as there's occasion along the ride.
Certainly, and we have, if we break down, we got a great support team, a professional bike repair company that travels with us. And it's amazing. I've known to wreck my bike a time or two. And I know now not to use a cell phone not to take calls while you're riding.
You did not.
And it's rather hazardous to your health.
Oh, Dave.
But my bike was ready to go the next day, whether I was or not.
Dave.
So I found out you can put bikes back together, but people are a different thing.
Yeah, some people learn the hard way. That's all I got to say about that.
Some people learn hard lessons. Yes. So we know not to do that anymore.
So,
but
books. You give away books.
We give away a lot of books to libraries, and we plant trees, and then we've repeated some tours, different areas, and we'll go back by and check on our trees we've planted, in previous tours.
Oh.
And hey, they're always there.
See how the little fellas are doing.
And see, yeah, they grow.
They do.
That's something about trees.
You plant them right.
You plant them right. We give them lots of energy. We do a little thing that you have to be there to really appreciate, where we do the grow trees grow chant, where we give them energy as we get all the
That's
kids to
awesome.
do that with us, and it's great.
So this is a fabulous ride for people who love trees, love nature, love to be outdoors, and really want to take that with them everywhere they go during the week.
Yeah, and you don't have to be an arborist. We have, bankers, real estate agents, somebody we met in the local wine shop in California and thought, well, this would be fun to do. I'm a cyclist. I'm going to ride with
I
you.
can
And he
do
rode with
this.
us for 10 years.
Wow.
So, hey, it's great.
And you can get involved in all the extracurricular stuff as little or as much as you want.
Certainly, you can just ride and enjoy that, or just take in as many events as you wish.
Oh, and Dave, you said you identify trees along the way. So
Oh, we'll say, well, that's a nice one, but we have...
does anyone know what kind that is?
There are landmark trees, and somebody in the crew may know. Well, I know a tree that's a couple blocks away here that's a fantastic tree. So we all go up there and
Everyone
surprise somebody
gets off rattle a little
visit
bit.
their tree in their front yard, and it's like, well, here's the national champion western red cedar or something, and they're immense trees.
And there are some of those that you will be going by on the route.
And we actually have one national champion that we're going by. It's the national champion sassafras tree in Owensboro, Kentucky.
No kidding.
And we're going to take a little short detour to go to it. And you think, how big can a sassafras tree be? Well, I've seen this tree, and I've actually climbed in it and worked in it in years past. It is enormous.
Wow. Well,
Yes.
we're going to take another short break, and we'll be back with you in just a few sassafras moments.
There you go.
Welcome back to Bike Talk on Lexington Community Radio. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Wanda Bertram, and today I'm here with Dave Leonard. He's known around these parts as the Tree Guy. His company is Dave Leonard Tree Specialists, but he's also a cyclist, and for 17 years he has ridden with a national event called the Tour de Trees, which is coming through Kentucky for the first time this year. Dave, what makes this tour so special?
I think what makes it special to me is the camaraderie within the group, and the fact that every person is actually giving back something at this time to the industry, to everyone, because it is benefiting trees and tree research, and trees benefit all of us, whether we know it or not.
Absolutely. And this is a group, it's a smaller group, there's a cap, so there tends to be a lot of camaraderie in a group like this. People get to know each other, I would think.
Yes, we have over the years, and like I said, will be my 17th ride out of 27. I had to miss one when one of my horses kicked my spleen out one year, and then, things like that.
And that
happen.
kept you off a bike?
That did, and then 2 years ago for a heart valve replacement. But then I came back for this year's last ride, and we did a good ride. Just stayed in Ohio for that year, and so this year we're venturing into Tennessee and Kentucky. And we've got a slightly shorter ride, around 450 miles. So in 5 days, rather than the traditional 6-day ride.
And this raises money for the Tree Fund.
The Tree Fund, which is the Tree Research and Education Endowment Fund. That's where TREE comes from. And we've given away actually $4 million in grants and scholarships.
Wow.
And since, not too long ago, since 2002. So that's some serious money. And some researchers in Kentucky have gotten some of the money. And it goes, you just got to apply for it. and know that it's out there to apply for the grants.
Yeah, and that's very important. And this year, there's a large fundraising goal.
Well, it's the fundraising goal is $300,000 this year. It's been $350,000 or $400,000 when we've had more riders.
That's a huge fundraiser.
That's a big fundraiser.
Yes, it is.
But it's and I hope we're up to it. But I'm sure we will. It'll be a great time. You don't need to be an arborist to ride a bike. Wanda, you could come and ride a bike.
I absolutely could.
I think you've been known to ride a bike a few times. It's a great thing to do. It's how we give back to the industry and to the general public. And we educate people along the road.
And you have a great time while you're at it.
And we have a great time. We've had not so great times occasionally when, we had a tornado go right across our path one time and kind of split the group.
That had to make it interesting,
where I took shelter with a few others that were slower. I kind of ride in the back and support the rear group.
Well, if I do this, I'll be back there with you.
Well, there you go. You're more than welcome. I'm one of the slower riders. I'm not one that averages 24 or 25 miles an hour. And I like to hold down to my 13 miles an hour and just bring up the rear and enjoy the scenery.
That's what I like to do too. I like to enjoy the scenery and get off and look at the trees and lay in the grass and enjoy the countryside you're rolling through. And this ride is an exceptional ride in that the places that you have gone, the locations of the tour are pretty phenomenal. They're world-class destinations to a great extent.
Well, I didn't pick it up until about the 5th year into it, but the first ride was 900 miles long, and I didn't hear about it until it was over. And they rode from Seattle, Washington to Oakland, California, all the way down Highway 1 through the Redwoods.
Wow.
Can you imagine doing that?
Yeah.
And that was like 10 people.
Wow. What a nice way to start.
And they just did it on their own, and then it grew from there into what we are doing now. And so we've had rides that were 900 miles long. We actually had one that was 975 miles long that I did. That was my second ride.
You started off big.
From Coeur d'Alene, Idaho to Salt Lake City. And if anybody doesn't think that's very far, they need to go do it on a bike.
Now, had you ever, when you did that, you took off on almost 1,000-mile ride. Had you ever done a ride like that before?
Never. I was entirely innocent. I did get me a new bike. I took my old bike from college, my 10-speed Italian bike, to the bike shop, and I said, I'm going to do a 1,000-mile bike ride. What do you recommend? And they looked at me and they said, a new bike.
A new bike. And we can help you with that.
And so they convinced me that it would be utter folly to try to do it on my crippled bike, which had been wrecked a few times. And of course, they'd improved slightly in 25 years.
Yeah.
The technology. I mean, you actually had 21 gears now rather than 10.
Imagine.
Dave. I had no clue.
Who'd have thunk it?
And now I'm up to 27 gears, so I'm really rolling now. And I do love my triple crank in the front. You got to have that. Now, there are purists that don't have that, but I'm sorry. I've got it and I use it.
So get your bike tuned up. Get a good bike. Get your bike tuned up if you've already got a decent bike. Yeah. What have been some of your favorite rides over the years?
Oh, well, the first one, I mean, you never forget. And just the agony of that.
Dave, come on.
Oh, I'm supposed to be talking people into this now. Well, I was pretty prepared for the first one because they scared me to death and said you needed to ride 1,000 miles to do a 1,000-mile bike ride. And so I rode my rear end off and was in pretty good shape for that. And the second year was probably one of my favorites because my daughter Becky did that with us.
Oh, and how old was she at the time?
She was like 25 and, living in Boulder and was doing massage therapy on all these professional athletes. And she thought, oh, you might need a masseuse on this tour. So she actually came and rode the mornings with us till lunch, and then jumped in a car with her masseuse partner and rode to the Finnish hotel, and then set up her tables and was waiting on everybody as they came in. And
it's a nice
we
amenity.
just everybody loved Becky.
I love Becky.
So we learned from that and experience, and so now we have traveling masseuses as well.
So this is a well-supported tour.
Well supported. We don't take anything with us but, snacks and water, and we have luggage support, and we have wonderful food.
You're well-fed.
Well fed, and that is funny though, because when you feed 100 cyclists, it's different than feeding 100 normal people. when they've ridden, either 50 miles or 100 miles, or in some cases one gets lost. I have ridden 120 miles before lunch.
Just by accident.
By accident in North Carolina once, and I swear I'll never do that again.
Don't get lost.
Don't get lost, no matter if they
Call
said,
your SAG
this is the
support.
shortcut. No, don't believe them.
Stay on your route.
With the new computers that we have now on the bikes, it's hard to get lost. We still do it, but we won't get too far off course.
Sometimes it's kind of fun to get lost.
That it is the experience. There have been some wonderful rides. Riding along the Natchez Trace from Jackson, Mississippi to Nashville was awesome. Several rides out in Canada have been great.
So this has even gone to Canada.
Oh yeah, I've done several trips in Canada. Or in both Canada and the U.S. And you learn a lot about people. You get really stressed out, and then you get really good highs too.
All right, well, we're going to take another break, and we'll be back with you in a few moments.
Welcome back to Bike Talk on Lexington Community Radio. I'm your host, Wanda Bertram. With me today is David Leonard. He's the tree guy here in Central Kentucky. His company is David Leonard Tree Specialists. But today he's been here talking to us about the Tour de Trees, which is a national fundraiser for the Tree Fund, coming to Kentucky for the very first time this year. That event is in September. We've been talking a whole lot about it. Dave, why don't we talk about what this supports? And here in Lexington, we have what you call the urban forest canopy. Can you talk a little bit about where that's been, where we are, where we're going, and who's really been behind that?
I can go on for hours and hours about it.
It'll be another show.
The trees about us around in our urban area are actually pretty important. They do things like slow down stormwater surge, which is a huge, huge thing. They provide shade. They cool homes, which reduces energy loads. They have uses. They define streets. They're screening. They provide community gathering places like the Woodland Park, Shillato Park. Think of all the trees that are out there. So all of these comprise our urban forest canopy. And in Lexington, it is declining.
Really?
Which is not the way we'd like it. And it's declining because a lot of the trees now that were planted 100 years ago, they've reached their lifespan and they're declining. We could have planned better. We now know that if we had planted white oaks rather than pin oaks, they'd still all be here. And the pin oaks are declining because they're not native to Lexington and the bluegrass. They grow great in Louisville. They live twice as long in Louisville as they do here because of our soils. So we have alkaline soils, and Pin oaks don't like alkaline soils.
So now we know.
So things like this, I mean, simple things can make a tremendous impact on us. Of course, right now we're in the throes of dealing with the emerald ash borer that is doing its best to kill all our ash trees. Of course, they can be treated to protect that too, to protect trees if you have really nice trees. We're doing a lot of that. Yeah, our urban forest canopy is in decline, and it's not anywhere near where it should be, really, to get maximum benefits according to the American Forestry Association.
Who is working now on this issue? Who are some of the people that are really starting to make a difference? Because I know that you've mentored a lot of people over the years.
I have, and there's a bigger awareness now. I've served with or on the tree board for over 30 years.
What is the tree board?
The tree board is the Lexington Urban Fayette County Government Tree Board.
Okay, so it's our...
And we've met,
municipal tree board.
Once a month. Gosh, I can't imagine how many meetings I've been to. When you think once a month for 30 years, that's a lot of meetings.
That's a lot of math.
That's a lot of math and a lot of talk about trees. So we try and guide the city of Lexington what they should be doing with their trees. We have planting guides, try and advise Lexington on what to do. So that's just one group. We've recently formed a nonprofit just last year with Trees Lexington. So we're trying to get trees in the hands of people and actually plant trees for people, and working with that, and we're looking for grant money for that as well. So, but we have a state urban forest council. Whoever knew that? And I've been on it since its inception.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And we work with the Division of Forestry out of Frankfurt. There's a lot going on, and our canopy right now. Well, a few years ago it was checked, and we were at 24% canopy cover. American Forestry Association recommends 40%.
So we've got room for more trees.
So we need more trees.
Yeah.
Like Savannah is over 50%. Now, can you imagine Lexington looking like Savannah? I don't think we're ever going to look like Savannah, but we can do more. And we really recognize the areas of Lexington that need more canopy, which is on the north and east side. So, I mean, if you go to Ashland area and Chevy Chase, they've got plenty of trees. But we still have a lot of declining trees, and we need to maintain those. So we see that the wealthier parts of town have better canopy cover than the poorer parts of town. And we really need to get trees to them so they can have the benefits as well.
So people listening to this show and to Lexington Community Radio, what can they do? How do they access these trees to plant them?
Good question. We need a lot more help, certainly. Trees Lexington, we have a small website. You can check into that. Jake Gibbs is our council person that we're working with, and Stacy Borden is our chairperson or president, who is now in charge of trees at the University of Kentucky, in charge of arboriculture, I should say, at the University of Kentucky. I mean, there's just so much that needs to be done still. The biggest thing is to create an awareness, I think, of that we need more trees, planted in the right places, the right kinds of trees.
And I know there are efforts with nonprofit groups and civic groups. I know last fall, Dixie Moore headed an effort with the Bluegrass Cycling Club, and they planted a lot of trees
on our trail. And I could not be here, but I talked to Dixie, and we discussed that, and I was scheduled for an out-of-town several-day conference, so I really wanted to be at that, but I couldn't.
So civic groups, nonprofit groups, including cycling groups, school groups, can access those grants to go out and plant the trees. And they have people to show them how to do it and how to help them. The Bluegrass Cycling Club being one example.
Sure, and Trees Lexington is another one that we want people to let us know they need trees. And then we try and figure out what we can do to get some to you, be they seedlings or whatever, to get some trees started.
Very important information and surprising, because People often think you look outside and we seem like we have plenty of trees, but we need more.
We need more, yes. In certain parts of town, we have plenty. But for every tree that comes down, I mean, there are large trees that come down. And then you say, well, I'm planting a new tree for that one. That one tree that you're replanting, which is all you can do, it's not going to take the place of that other tree for several generations.
So we have to think decades.
So
Decades
I'm known for thinking in tree time. Trees react to what we do to them slower, but we have to think many, many years ahead. Yes, and I'm always thinking 20 years ahead minimum. What's going to happen here and what we need to be doing.
This bike tour, the Tour de Trees, a big thing that it does is to raise awareness about all of this.
Exactly.
Because it's this kind of education that you talk about along the tour.
That's exactly right.
Tour de Trees. Let's give some basic information about that again, because we're going to
Okay.
have to say goodbye here in just a few moments. September
16th through the 20th.
and it starts in
Nashville, and ends in Nashville.
but it loops through Kentucky.
Loops up to Owensboro, and it'll be great fun. We're limiting the capacity to 75 riders this year, and we've already signed up 42, 4 from Kentucky. Yay!
Yay, go Kentucky.
We would like to have a few more from Kentucky if anybody wants to help with a very worthwhile event and have some fun at
You'd
the
be
same
happy
time.
to talk to people.
And I would be more than happy to guide them along. And so that's another thing, is just call me if you have any more questions about it. And go to the website, the Tree Fund website. Click on Tour de Trees, and it will tell you a lot. But certainly you can call someone there, or make it easy to call me too.
Call Dave Leonard Tree Specialists, and they can hook you up
Certainly.
about the nonprofit Tour de Trees Fund ride to
Yes.
get more information about that. And the goal is to raise $300,000 this year, which
Yes.
is huge. A great effort, Dave. Thanks for joining me on the show.
Well, thanks so much, Wanda, for having us.
Don't forget to tune in to Bike Talk at the same time next week for all things cycling, helping you get out, explore our towns and countryside in Lexington and beyond. Thanks for joining us. Be safe and enjoy the ride. Bluegrass Cycling Club is proud to support Bike Talk as an underwriter for Lexington Community Radio. For more information, you may visit bgcycling.net.